A veteran group once again leads the way for the Blue Jays starting rotation. Hey everyone, welcome into Long Ball. Rob Wong, joined alongside by Toronto Sun Blue Jays writer Rob Longley, who's down in Dunedin, Florida for spring training. And Rob, the Blue Jays rotation has been their strength for the past few years now, with the likes of Kevin Gausman, Jose Barrios, and Chris Bassett. Don Francis taking a step in the second half last year, and now they've added future Hall of Famer Max Scherzer to this group. We'll get to maybe some of the individuals in a moment, but just as a whole, how do you think this rotation stacks up to some of the ones they've had in previous seasons?
Yeah, there's a lot to like about the group overall, Rob, and a lot to lead you to believe that they could be one of the best veteran starting rotations in all of baseball. But unfortunately, with so many things involving this team, there are some questions, and they're kind of going to need everything to go right. They're going to need Kevin Gausman to be a little bit better than he was last year, and to be as consistent as he has been through much of his later seasons in his professional career. They're going to need Chris Bassett to be strong as well, a guy who can give you 30 starts and almost 200 innings every year. And they're going to need La Máquina, the machine, Jose Barrios, to be the sort of the rock of the rotation. All those things are possible, but all three of those guys are getting a little bit long in the tooth. So, as I've said about so many things with this team, a lot of stuff has to go right, and health is right at the top of that list. A strong, healthy veteran rotation can carry a team a long way, and already we're starting to see some questions about that, of course, with what's happened with Max Scherzer's thumb, sort of sidelining him for one start anyway, and possibly another one, and really putting into serious question whether he'll be ready for the start of the regular season. I guess that's one of the risks you take when you sign a 40-year-old future Hall of Famer to a contract. But the Jays certainly didn't expect that to happen this early. And there's a lot of frustration, not just with the team about what's happened, but with Max Scherzer. I spoke with him the other day, and he's still confident that he's going to get back on track, but there's a frustration and an anger, and it's almost a disbelief that this is happening to him again for the second and third year actually in a row. So a lot of potential there, potential to be one of the best rotations in the American League East, but still a lot of question marks as well.
And as you mentioned, this Max Scherzer thumb injury is not something that he hasn't dealt with before. It was a nerve issue that he previously had talked about dealing with. And it's unfortunate, as you mentioned. I mean, the spring training stats so far for Scherzer have looked phenomenal. And for a while there, it felt like, wow, maybe the Blue Jays are getting a big steal here. But as you said, the injury concerns have always been, kind of lurking in the background for a guy that hasn't been overtly healthy the last couple of seasons. Now, going into the year, I don't think anyone expected him to, be pitching 180 innings and making 30 plus starts. I think it's still even the optimistic view was that he was going to be able to maybe make 20 starts, maybe throw 100 or so innings, quality innings. And I guess that's still on the table, Rob, because I don't think many people were expecting Scherzer to go the full year without some hiccups along the way, even though it is unfortunate, like we mentioned.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, it's easy to be overly pessimistic about this, but realistically, there was never going to be the expectation that he would be a 30-start guy. I think, like you suggested, probably in the low 20s, and sort of manages innings, give him a spot in the rotation off every once in a while, and that's still fully possible. Like there's no serious damage done. He had an MRI, and it was everything was clear. It's just a situation where when he hits the 50 pitch mark in a game, it starts to flare up on him a little bit. So my hunch would be that, and they're going to try to get him to pitch again this weekend, but my hunch will be that they will monitor it very closely and see how things are progressing and not rush him in. So if he misses his first turn or even two turns through the rotation, I think they would be fine, because as you noted, Rob, in those three starts that he did make down here, he really looked like the Max Scherzer of old, not just an old Max Scherzer. He was right on it, and certainly impressed not just the coaching staff but his fellow starters. So all is not lost just because of a sore thumb, but it could be an issue to follow closely for the entire season.
So where do the Blue Jays go beyond here, Rob? We know Yariel Rodriguez has still been stretched out in spring. The numbers, unfortunately, do not look particularly good for him. Alek Manoah is just back throwing now, and he potentially could be an option in the back half of the season. But beyond a guy like Yariel Rodriguez, where are the Blue Jays looking here if they do need someone to make some starts?
Well, how's your slider, Rob? Are you available?
My knuckleball is not bad, but beyond
There you go.
that, I'm a
Well,
one pitch guy.
there are some options. There is a little bit of pitching depth there, but unfortunately, they're not options that get you all that excited right now. You mentioned Rodriguez, and there were high hopes for this guy last year, and he never really settled in to be a consistent force in the major leagues. They've kept him stretched out so that he could be a starter if needed, but as you said, Rob, performance-wise, he hasn't looked all that good in spring training just yet. So he's one of the guys. Eric Lauer, who pitched last night in Sarasota against the Orioles, got lit up a little bit. He's another guy that has been given some consideration. And Ryan Yarbrough, the veteran, the guy that the Jays could never hit when he was with Tampa. The slow fastball guy who just has a wily way of getting guys out. I guess he's a possibility as well. I suppose there's always the option of going with a bullpen day, but that's sort of the option that you're looking at for July and August, not in March and April. So some questions around what they're going to do for that fifth spot. I mean, I'm sure they're looking at the best way to attack it, and we'll certainly exhaust the situation with Max Scherzer before they make a move like that. But certainly not ideal, not the way you want to start a season with questions at the bottom of your rotation.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. Still about a week or so before the Blue Jays get things started against the Baltimore Orioles. But what started as a pretty optimistic part of this team, now there's some question marks, as you said, with regards to the rotation. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For Rob Longley, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.